Sabres game night as Buffalo plays host to the Islanders. Pregame is at 6 for a 7 p.m. puck drop. And after just 3 games in Rochester, looks like Zach Metsa is going to be back in the lineup. And in terms of starting in net, all signs appear to point to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen getting his second start in a row. And for more on tonight's matchup, Paul Hamilton has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. 9 other games across the league, though some notable matchups to keep an eye on include also at 7 o'clock, the Bruins host the Stars. Detroit is at Pittsburgh. The Lightning have Montreal in town. Ottawa is down in Florida versus the Panthers. And the Flyers are at Washington. While at 7:30, Columbus, they host Carolina. For football, Bills head coach Joe Brady spoke with the media today. You can listen back over on the Odyssey app or our website, WGR550.com. Do stay tuned. We'll get the latest on the Bills and the NFL because there were some rule changes today as Sal Capaccio will join the show at 4. While in baseball, just after 7:30, the Bisons are in Omaha versus the Storm Chasers. That game is going to be over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And then starting in the next few minutes, Rochester's home against Scranton. While in the majors, the Jays host the Rockies just after 7. The Mets are in St. Louis at 7:45. And then out west, the Yankees, they take on the Mariners at 9:40. And heads up, football fans, as Pittsburgh prepares to welcome the nation to the unofficial beginning of the football season, the celebration will begin the night before with an unforgettable invite-only night of music taking place on Wednesday, April 22nd at the Rivers Casino Event Center, featuring Jason Aldean, John Morgan, and Shane Profit. Visit Odyssey.com/thenightbefore to enter now for your chance to win this national contest. Prizes include a round-trip airfare, a 2-night hotel stay, and 2 tickets to the show. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for West New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They have this Panther sound effect that is just the cheesiest, stupidest sounding thing. Big voice guy going, Panther goal scored by Sam Reinhart. Where'd you get that thing?
I trapped it. Been keeping it in my bathroom at the motel, feeding it old pizza.
It's Mike Schopp.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do. Namely, eat you with a smile on its face.
And the Bulldog. On WGR, Sports Radio 550.
I probably shouldn't even because it's so tired at this point, but no ball game?
There
isn't one.
There isn't. Okay, I was gonna ask. I mean, the TV is on. I could.
There isn't one.
I don't have to go through any, changing carriers, changing settings. I think I could just go look for a channel, but no games. That's not good.
Still within the first week of the season. Opening night was last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Texas, Baltimore, 6:35 is the first game today. You've been to games there.
In Baltimore?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Numerous. Yeah. Like it a lot. What do you remember most? What are your fondest memories? My fondest memory is getting a really cool old style with the cartoonish Oriole bird hat, much like the flat brim one I now have. Not that I expect anyone out there to remember this, but part of the reason I bought this Orioles hat last season is because we got a hat like that for, I don't think both of the boys, I think just Owen wanted one, so we got him one. And as we're walking into the ballpark, we were walking in through center field where Boog's Barbecue is located. And Boog Powell, just a massive figure from, I guess 60s and 70s baseball, was there. And he greeted us as we walked through the gates and said, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Boog Powell," and stuck out a hand and shook my hand, swallowed my entire hand with his hand. And Owen met him, and I think he said, "Son, would you like me to sign that hat for you?" And he signed the hat for him, and then we left it in the hotel room in Baltimore when we left.
Oh. Was that an easy yes?
So, yeah, oh, yeah.
It was?
I loved, what does Owen know? He was 8, maybe. I don't know. 6.
You'd always, there's a line of player at, below which you would not want the signature, but if they offer it, it's awkward.
Yeah.
Boog Powell,
I think
okay.
Boog Powell is he's an Orioles legend. He's got the barbecue stand out in the outfield at the new ballpark.
Kind of is.
And
I've met Boog Powell.
I remember I have somewhere. Do we all have boxes of VHS tapes that are long, we're never going to use again? Somewhere I have actually. Our mutual friend Larry Samuels is how I came to own this. He did an internship at a TV station in New York, sports department, when he was going to school at Oswego, and he somehow came in possession of a game from the Orioles and Mets from the World Series from '69.
Yeah.
And I don't know, game 1, game 3, I don't remember what game it is. But Nolan Ryan comes in for the Mets from the bullpen.
Yes. And
throws a curveball that makes Boog Powell almost fall down. And this is such a cool, super young Nolan Ryan, legendary Boog Powell, scared of nothing. And he's just rubber-legged in the box because here's, Ryan already could, he knew he could throw, 99, 100, whatever. You could really bring it. And then here comes the yacker, and Boog Powell kind of yacked.
John Wesley Powell.
So I've always, because of that,
and you've been out, so that barbecue is out beyond right field, right? And people hang out there.
Yeah.
What's that? There's a street.
Utah Street.
Bam! Frank, the story is Utah. Oh, we are off and running today. Sabres and Islanders pregame at 6. I was listening. I enjoyed the whole thing. I love the story. Wait till tomorrow, everybody. Wait till I got one ready for tomorrow.
There are times. I mean, you know this because I'm guessing I'm not always wrong when I feel this. There are times when we begin the show and you sort of tee me up for something, and I start talking, and I think, am I talking? Is this taking too long? He's looking at me. I'm not sure. And you were just letting me go, and that should have. I had my instinct was, is this okay? This is how we're starting the show. I hope this is okay. And it was just that. And I didn't. And I answered Utah Street. The spelling is different.
Yes, it is. But it sounds very similar to Utah.
It does. Yes. Oh boy.
EUTAW.
They are gonna make the playoffs, right? The Utah Mammoths. So I
think so.
This isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
It's a phase I'm in.
Unless they get eliminated.
It's a phase. If you weren't listening yesterday, this makes no sense.
No. Well.
By the way, but that'll teach you.
Try to keep up, everyone.
That'll teach you for doing something else. I just enjoyed myself. I indulged myself there. I did and still do mostly want to start with Mike Vrabel crumpling up that nameplate. So Joe Brady coaches at the owners' meetings, sitting at tables, reporters gathered round. I guess maybe Vrabel got done with his and was walking past Brady and his, and in the course of doing so, he stopped at the table, it seems, grabbed like a cardboard nameplate, Joe Brady on it. There's a picture of it on Twitter. Dan Leberfeld had it. He's the first person I saw about it.
That's where I saw it.
And he sort of crumpled it up. And then apparently, and Sal corroborates this, he was there, they both laughed and had fun with it. And, oh, man, I would love to know Brady better, to know if he really did enjoy that.
Uh-huh.
Because
I would really want to know if they have a pre-existing relationship and, what is it? I think that is informative to, how to feel about what Vrabel did there.
It is a move.
Yes.
I mean, there's lots of ways you can, if you have to do it. Most people wouldn't have to do it, but if you had to enter the chat, so to speak, there, you could do that in a lot of different ways, just sort of like a fist bump and keep walking, or like a wave, something like that. I was thinking of when I went to Las Vegas a few times for drafts. They spare no expense, Bulldog. These are high rollers. Mm-hmm. This company, they just do anything they can do for you, including one of those cardboard nameplates with your name on it and a little box where you write the number for your draft position. But it's got, Mike Schopp, right there it is, FFPC. And the first year I went, at least, it was important to me to take that thing home in its, best state. Like nobody comes over to you and touches your nameplate, even just touches it, because like that's a little bit aggressive. Now, like you said, if they know each other well, and that's the kind of thing where like I don't buy this. I think it's probably unlikely that they like prank each other, Mike Vrabel and Joe Brady.
Right.
I mean, I think I'd already know that if they had that kind of relationship.
Right.
Then okay. This is Vrabel, who in spades, his image is, you work for me. I'm big. I've got rings. How many rings does he wear to these press conferences? Like he's got all these rings from when he played, and now he's back in the spotlight. Super Bowl last year. And, he's the alpha, right? Not to use what's become a cliche.
That's absolutely the word that comes to mind.
He is the alpha, and, most people don't like the alpha. You might admire him, but you don't necessarily like him. And I already had in my head that picture from yesterday where he's the jerk who's got his legs spread out. I mean, in the front row, seated at that. Who does that? In your life, you've been around people. The guy I sat next to at the Boston game was this guy who was just like, he doesn't even process the fact that you might want your
share of the space that is quote unquote shared.
Yeah. Vrabel might be the type who does care, and he's still not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And because you get, how this works, you get from the legs of your chair out as far as the eye can see, but those are your confines.
Mm-hmm.
The chair space, those are your confines.
Right.
Here's Vrabel, like this.
Knees are out,
like just
halfway
finished Thanksgiving
into the
dinner.
guys on either side of him space.
Right. He's just finished Thanksgiving dinner, and he's, leaning back. He's falling asleep in his leather chair.
Al Bundy unbuttoned the top button, put the hand in the
pants.
In the pants.
And so Vrabel is already this week, by doing that, and he, of course, what is him in this case, going to say about any of this? Like, it's all just ridiculous, right? But no, it's not ridiculous. And I'd like to think that Brady, loved it or something, that they are boys. That's what Sal said. I asked Sal what he thought the vibe was, and there were a couple other reports about, including Leberfeld, who first had it. Like, no, it's all good. They laughed about it.
Uh-huh.
I would not think it funny.
Yeah. I don't think you really have. Well, I mean, you do. Brady, he has a choice in that moment. He can either laugh, and that can be real, like, I'm in the club now. Right. It absolutely is easier. It's incumbent on him to not make it into a thing where he's offended by it. Because then we're debating whether he's too thin-skinned and it was just a joke and like, oh my God, he's going to lead my team and all kinds of stuff. So I think the smart thing to do is just laugh it off. But I don't know, like, way he walks away from that table and away from the cameras. Is he thinking what a lot of, I'm just going to be honest, I'd be thinking, F that guy. Well, what was that? I don't need that. And furthermore, it is like alpha behavior, but it's like, I think the real like kingpin, I'm the dude behavior doesn't need to show anybody up to demonstrate that. It's sort of weak wannabe tough guy stuff is what that is.
It's like a John Hughes movie.
Like let me yeah, right. Let me see how my new adversary here reacts to this. I don't think it's for nothing that he did it.
It's Biff.
Right, exactly. It's classic bully move stuff, and not at all surprising from, a coach who's got videos making the rounds from him at pro days with linemen beating the living crap out of him. Like, he needs you to know how tough he still is, and this has been a problem. Like, I have immense respect. I think I made it clear the whole time, the run-up to last year. I think he's a great coach. He is also one of my least favorite personalities on the NFL scene because I think he's all of everything I've just said is why.
So we're confirming our priors today.
Yeah.
Because, is anybody saying different? I mean, Brady would have to be the one to, like, tell you, yeah, that's not cool at all. But would Brady do that?
It wouldn't look good for Brady to do that.
Would Dan Campbell do that? Does he walk by? I mean, who would it be? That division is all veteran coaches. I don't need a name. Ben Johnson worked for him. If he went by, well, it could be Ben Johnson. It doesn't matter. If he walked by some rivals, even if it's not even a rival, just another coach, and crumpled up his nameplate, and then they laughed, and so the coach, who's like the rookie in the situation, laughs back because, it's Biff and Marty McFly. John Hughes movies, there's always some idiot who at the end of the movie is going to get served. But for like the first 3/4 of the movie, like he's sort of the boss. And then the geek comes in, the nerd comes in and outwits him in the end. Like it's every movie.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, I didn't need this to be a story, right? And it's not one. Because Brady's move was to be like
to diffuse it, basically, with like lightheartedness, and that's fine, and that may be exactly accurate.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Look, I'm not Mr. I need this for content. Like I hate talking like that or thinking like that. I mean, it's a reality often enough in our jobs, but I think it's better. Ben Johnson saying he hates the Packers is better for football than if he's just super polite to Matt LaFleur and the Packers, right? So in this way, I want it to be a jerk move by Vrabel because it works for me as a Bills fan if he's a jerk to my team and my coach. Like that, I'm not going to do anything about it other than flap my gums about it, but it makes it more interesting if he's really trying to get under Joe Brady's skin and if he succeeded. It's all good because it just heats up the rivalry in a ridiculously silly way. But I'm here for that. I'm here for everybody not to be pals.
Brady's a big guy too, by the way. Like he's not small. He's like 6'4", maybe.
Yeah.
But if it were two coaches that you knew had problems with each other, who would that be? I don't know. Seems like a long time ago where this might have been.
Well, I mean, I don't know if the thing with Johnson and LaFleur is much at all, but that Johnson has been pretty public about not liking the Green Bay Packers. Like that's as close as I think, and that's just last year.
Belichick and the Jets or something.
Yeah, sure.
Then there wouldn't have been laughs, but it would have been a big deal if somebody does that, and you know it to be unfriendly. So. I was also thinking about, did you already say this? Like if Brady had done it to somebody, he's a big guy, he's a rookie, he goes by. What if he had done it to Vrabel? Does Vrabel just get up and sort of like bro hug him?
I don't know. Or
does he sort of shove him?
Like, who are you to come over to my table and crumple up my thing?
What's that?
You just got here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's. I'd like to think that Vrabel would be madder than Brady was about it in the moment. But that partially has to do with the fact that Brady is new and Vrabel is, he's not been in the AFC East forever. Last year was his first year, but he's a well-known name and face on the coaching scene in the NFL. So he outranks Brady
easily
by miles. So then that maybe you would argue perhaps if the roles were reversed, Vrabel would have even more of a reason to be, upset about Brady doing that to him, whereas it's the other way, and this is just a glove in the face and a scrum. I'm not really looking to fight. I'm just looking to tweak you a little bit. I mean, there is room for. I mean, I've said many times. I've got. Doesn't happen now that our kids are as grown, but like families that I know, husbands and wives that would drive past my house taking their kids to school, and I'd see them, and like the finger is our greeting. Like you can mess around with people if you're friendly with them, and that's all in the name of good fun. That's why I think it would be nice to know whether these guys are do they have some background, but not knowing that, it just makes me want to kind of punch Mike Vrabel in the face all the more, which is a sort of a default setting of mine.
I brought this up to my wife on my way out the door today. Like I might have a good one today. Like, I don't know what she's thinking. Isn't there a hockey game tonight? Like, what do you mean? I might have a good one. And it's a safe space, I think, probably, if you will, because it happened to the Bills. If it was anything, it happened to them. Not, like I could see Marone being the type of guy who would do something like this. And when Marone was new, we all sort of just look at the positives and, they fired a coach who didn't win. So here's a move. Like, all right, well, this could work out. And here are the positives, right? And then he goes to the owners' meeting, and he's walking by whoever. I'm not even, Herm Edwards. I don't even know who would have been somebody
right.
in that era. And he just does this. Like, oh, no, we're boys. And, maybe they are, maybe they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably would have come in here and been like, I hate that. I know he's our new coach, but that sucks. Like, that's not cool at all.
Right, why did our new coach just steal the other coach's lunch money? Like, what is going on here exactly?
And, chairs would have been hitting me in the head for days because how dare you? Like, you don't even know anything. But it happened to the Bills.
Right.
So I think it's safe to just pontificate, without knowing anything really about their relationship, if there is one. Sal was there. He's coming on. I wanted to know. I didn't load the question. I wanted to know, like, what did you get from that? And he's like, 2 dudes having fun. Okay.
All right.
Can't know different.
All right.
I wasn't there.
I respect Sal's perspective on that and feel completely at liberty to ignore it. It's like, no disrespect. I just like, I think it's better. I guess what I'm admitting here is I want to choose to be at least slightly, if not more than that, annoyed about it because
I totally am annoyed by it.
I don't like Mike Vrabel. So he did a thing that could have been psych or could have been just ha 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 ha. I don't know. I think he's kind of a big mouth, big headed, big muscled, I'm a tough guy jerk.
Bulldog at what Hall of Fame are you in? Which one do you want me to use here? The Buffalo Radio Hall of Fame or something? Then you go up to somebody from a different station that and you just sort of, and they're doing interviews, and you finished your interviews. You just walk by them and just like crumple up their nameplate or just sort of rustle their hair or something. Like, you know what? That can wait, actually.
Yeah, right.
You don't really need to do that right now. We can still be friends if you don't do that right now.
Yeah.
I don't think I want New England week 1. I want to ramp up. I might forget about this because no one's going to make anything of it. I think we know that already.
Well, I mean, that's up to us. No, I'm kidding.
We can only do so much.
That's right.
To make something out of that.
That's right.
If everybody in the know tells you it's nothing, then what can you do?
You may forget about it, but if they play in the opener or they play in week 4, whenever they do play, someone will call us and remind us. It's very possible we both forget about it, but someone, or you know what? No, it won't be forgotten in this room because the Friday before they play the Patriots the first time, you'll be like, "What do you got on Vrabel?" And I'm like, "Remember that time at the owners' meetings?" So it'll come up. But will it be fodder for days?
No.
No.
It's over.
I doubt it.
Nobody's doing anything with it today anyway. I mean, it was a few hours ago, and there were a couple of tweets. I don't know that Sal even tweeted about it. I just texted him. He said he was there.
Yeah.
It didn't mean enough to him to do anything with. Okay. I love it. I mean, and to whatever extent, if it were a little bit more of a story, because maybe Brady wasn't like perfectly obviously fine with it. Like he just was. You wondered by looking at his reaction, something like that. And then it did get it had some legs. And, it might get to Vrabel and he'd be like, what? You know how he would be in that one. And it's not going to change my mind either. But he'd be like, what are you talking about? What, did that happen? Oh, I forgot. Really?
Yeah,
are you really asking me this?
I was just kidding around. What's wrong with you people?
And, maybe a coach in this situation would be like,
day.
Right, again, fake news, all the crap. And then he might say something like, wow, I mean, you guys really have to work hard over there to come up with something to talk about. Which coaches themselves do that. I mean, coaches are always trying subterfuge and trying to, move goalposts and get you away from what might actually be something serious that's going on. And, they kind of do the same thing. But they have rank over us. They have rank. Well, interesting. I don't want New England week 1. That's the defending AFC champs. But the Bills and the Patriots, how often has it been like openly contentious? The Bills rolled over for the Belichick Patriots for 20 years.
That's right.
Like, it was never even interesting enough to, like, it was barely a rivalry. And then Allen shows up, and they blow him out once or twice, well, at least twice, once in the playoffs, and he's throwing phones, and he quits, and Brady leaves. It's over. And since then, until last year, it was like, I mean, they won 4 games the year before New England. Like, it was a totally one-sided deal. And then last year was different. So I don't know if there's Diggs might even be gone. I mean, he is anyway so far. If he goes back, I don't know. But like that came and went. I could use a little.
Yeah, that's
juice.
That's why I'm saying I feel at liberty to ignore Sal's assessment and just be mad at Mike Vrabel.
Oh,
because I think anger,
jerk move.
Anger is fuel. I mean, I think he's trying to let everybody know, like, I'm this guy, I'm his dad. It's a power move.
You work for me now.
Whether it's fun, meant in fun or not, it in the end, to me, looks like an assertion of strength.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
That's it.
That's what I would say too. 803-0550. Sal Capaccio at 4. Sabres and Islanders downtown. Pregame at 6. Looks like Zach Metza is going back in. That's interesting. Paul will join us to start the pregame show. We'll surely talk about that before then. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Lines are open for you. This is WGR.
edge, but there's certain personalities I was looking for. You know, you got to find a happy medium, right? You want some guys on your team that they check all the boxes. You want some guys that are going to stir the locker room a little bit, or going to, you know, we go out to practice and it doesn't matter what it's going to look like, how late it is in the season, they're going to go. And I feel comfortable as a head coach knowing that I can kind of talk to those guys and relate it. But I told Beam when we went through this process, like, let's not take anyone out of an evaluation just because of their background. Let's talk through it. Let's figure out what their issues might be. And a guy like Chauncey has the edge that I think will be great for us.
Joe Brady, right there. He said everything. He starts by saying, I'm not saying we didn't have an edge. And then from there, we want that, but, you know, we don't want it. We want to make sure we don't assume anything about, and then we, you know, says it all. I think he is saying they didn't have an edge.
Me too.
But he doesn't want to say they didn't have an edge.
Because I think he doesn't really want to say anything.
I think.
But, you know, it's fine. That's a lot of coaches' prerogative.
Yep. It'll be interesting, to say the least, whether or not he's got more to say. You know, I mean, McDermott needed time. And he never really became that open.
No, that's right.
That didn't make him, like you're saying just now, it doesn't make him an exception. Rather, that's the rule. Like, coaches are not going to tell you everything. Brady's new. He's kind of stuck a little bit because he's not entirely new. Like, he's been a part of these last few seasons. And if he's critical, is he kind of criticizing himself in some way? Like, he doesn't want to do that, but like, he's got to toe a line here that he has since he was hired.
Yeah,
which is like, this is going to be different, but not that different.
Because a lot of the guys. I mean, there's always turnover, and you know, if he's fortunate enough to have this job for, I don't know, 3 years, it's possible like Josh Allen and maybe like a couple other guys are the only people that will date back to McDermott. Like, rosters turn over that much. You know, it's a handful of guys maybe in 3 years. But right now, he's inheriting a team that has done a lot of winning and players who've had, I'm sure not every guy loves Sean McDermott, but plenty of those guys had very healthy, good relationships, and I think would probably credit McDermott and the coaching staff in general, the organization largely built by McDermott, for helping them get where they are, right? So you don't want to walk in and be all like, oh, kind of like Rex shows up, I've got the number 2 defense in the league. Oh, we're going to be number 1. Like, number 2 is for losers. I don't think he actually said that, but basically that was the idea. We're going to be better than 2. Is you know, I don't really need that from you right now.
They weren't, were they?
No. And I would think, I mean, they were good. They, you know, Rex had good, he knows he can coach defense. They had good defenses, but they did not improve on being the second best defense in the entire league. With Jim Schwartz, his predecessor as coordinator. Schwartz wasn't the head coach here. So Brady has to be, I think, pretty cognizant of that. And maybe that just comes naturally because he might qualify for as much of that as anyone else, any player. You know, I mean, he got an opportunity here. He was going to get an opportunity somewhere, you know, to grow his coaching career after what happened in Carolina. And maybe fortunate for him, it was Carolina where that happened because the Bills have a direct pipeline to Carolina, and he ended up here and has worked his way up to replacing the head coach. I think you want to be, you should be, I think, deferential to an extent about that. And that should just be, I hope, natural. But you definitely want to avoid going out of your way to make it sound like, you know, this was a problem. We're not doing that anymore. And those days are over, or anything like that. You haven't accomplished anything. This guy, you know, won a lot of games.
McDermott?
Yeah.
98-50.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't his biggest fan, but 98-50 over 9 years. Right. Humility is called for.
Yeah.
And I think Brady gives you that. He doesn't offend in that area. And, you know, that's where you really want to see what happens because, especially if he's going to talk a lot, there could be times when he sort of reveals something about his feelings that he doesn't want to necessarily. I mean, McDermott, I would say about him, and I really don't mean this as a criticism either, I think there were 2 McDermotts when he started, and maybe for a while, for years, where there was publicly, he was very safe, intentionally safe and, careful with what was he really giving up by answering questions, just thought it was better. He told me this. He thought it was, safer, better to be really, kind of boring, right?
Sorry.
Closed in, But I think you just naturally, it's a combination of years go by and you're successful where you would feel like you have more license to speak openly because you've been winning and you're just more comfortable doing it and more experienced at it. And so that would kind of come naturally too. And I think by the end, well, credit to you. Through last year, you thought McDermott was basically telling us he didn't like his roster that much in some areas, important receiver, and he wasn't, that isn't a quote, but you noticed it. And it happened enough times that Jacksonville week, we just kept hearing about how he was talking about Jacoby Myers every day.
Right.
Okay.
And in the end,
Jacoby Myers, really.
It does really feel like those comments are evidence of whatever fracture there was in the relationship between McDermott and Bean, and it led to, I think a power play that pushed McDermott out and got Bean promoted and more secure.
So Brady, could be two ways. That's what I was thinking of when I mentioned McDermott at the beginning of his career, where I think, like I was saying, outwardly he was those things. But, on the inside, there were stories about, like, he was kind of hostile. And, I had one episode with him. Other people I know did too. And I don't know if it was different or what it was like to be a player under him. But, he had an ego. I think almost all of them do. I think to get to head coach, I think you kind of have to. So that's not a problem. And Brady probably does too. I mean, he's been around good teams. LSU would do a lot for your ego when you're not even 30 yet.
For sure.
And then, the last few years here, he's a part of their success. I just will be watching and listening carefully for what does he really think? And this clip is sort of what I'm used to from him, which is making no stone is unturned. Yeah, we need a little bit more of this, but we had some of this. We want to try to do this, but we don't want to go to.
And that is an area where I would say, I really hope that you do have what McDermott had, because I think to be that way, sort of, let me give you all the answers. And you pick which one you want to decide fits your narrative best. What story are you writing? I'm going to give you the answer you need. You might be writing a different story, and you might get an answer from me that you want to use too. I think when you deal with players, and now you're dealing with not just the quarterbacks or not just the offense. Now you're the head coach. I think you got to be careful about telling people what they want to hear. Trying to keep them, you want everyone producing, but you can't just tell people what makes them happy every time you interact with them. And I'm not at all saying that this has to be true. That's why I'm saying I hope that there is a different Joe Brady behind closed doors than there is in these news conferences, because I think if you try to tell 90 players or the 60 that end up, comprising your team or thereabouts with the practice squad mixed in, you try to tell each of them what they want to hear, you're not going to get anywhere. Nobody's going to respect you because you're never going to be straight with them. So I would expect that he knows that and knows the media is one thing. Dealing personally with individuals and with the collective is a whole other thing. You got to be consistent. You can't just give every answer every time. Hey, coach, why? How come I'm not playing more? Well, we drafted this guy in the second round. So there's that. But then, your reps in the Miami game, I don't know. There was some good and some bad. But, okay, what is it? What do I need to work on? How do I get to where I can play more?
You want a boss that will tell you straight.
Right. That's it. And I think for whatever flaws, certainly everyone's got them. Whatever flaws McDermott had in that area, I think he did a pretty good job by accounts from people who were in those conversations with him, that he did a I'd say, above average job of connecting with the players as individuals. And that isn't the easiest thing to do. So, and I'm not at all saying this, any news conference with Brady where he gives you every answer under the sun is evidence that he doesn't know how to do that. It's, to me, I just hope he knows it's got to be different behind closed doors. I would assume he does. He's been coaching a long time.
Man, I would love there to be a video of that interaction today. Brady's face throughout. Somebody's just shooting Brady, and then Vrabel comes over, crumples the nameplate, and sounds like Brady just maybe got up. I don't know if he got up, but they just laughed about it, and it was a non-event. I wonder, like, if there was a second or two where he was processing that and deciding,
Yeah, what do I do now?
I'm not going to get up and get in this guy's face.
Right.
Because that's kind of what I want to do. You had your own press conference.
Right. Go. If he's, I don't know, is Vrabel wearing one of those? I feel like I've seen him in vests.
Always in a vest.
Does he got a vest on with a Patriot logo on it? How is it impossible to tear? Go try to tear that Patriot logo off. But then, if you can't do it, then that's embarrassing.
Sometimes in those situations, you want to let the other guy think he has domination over you. You just want to let him think that.
Sure.
And then if you're focused enough, you just do your job. Not going to let the noise affect me here or any dumb personality element. Sal was there. We'll talk to Sal at 4. Mike Vrabel, Joe Brady. 2 dudes having fun or something is what Sal described it as. I wonder. We have the Sabres tonight. Pregame at 6. The Islanders coming off an 8-3 blowout loss at home to the Penguins last night. They're up 3-1, kind of like mid-second, and lose 8-3. No empty net goals either.
I was gone by the I was watching through 3-1, and by the end of the second period, it's 5-3, I think, and so I didn't look in again. But so I believe you there were no empty netters.
They pulled Sorokin at 7-3. There might have been 12 minutes left.
Yeah, it was like 47 minutes is what I saw he played last night.
And I thought maybe they were going to come back to him tonight. I mean, they need wins. Give him the rest of the game off. I'm not sure if they weren't planning on playing him already. This might be out there. I don't know. But that's the reaction I had watching it last night. Just sort of splash some water on your face, and we'll need you tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll see. He's excellent, but not his night, to say the least, against the Penguins. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550. This is WGR. Welcome back, Sabres and Islanders. Tonight, 8 games left in the regular season. Severe thunderstorm warnings in effect in the area, so heads up. Sal Capaccio in Phoenix. He'll join us in less than 15 minutes to recap some of the comments made by Joe Brady and others at the owners' meetings. Maybe Mike Vrabel thought it was especially safe to go ruffle Brady's feathers after hearing that Aaron Glenn said that Geno Smith will lead the Jets, quote, to the promised land, end quote. That might have been all Vrabel needed to be like, there's no way I'm the story today. Like, just the promised land. I mean, speaking of coaches needing to know what the shot is and when to show humility.
Yeah.
Good for him for liking his new guy, but.
Sure, but,
Every Jet fan would take a wild card.
Like a wild, you mean like a wild card play?
Forget the promised land.
Sure.
Leave the promised land out of it.
Or
shouldn't even be in your head.
Or they would rather just win 2 games and draft the best guy on earth that's available next April. And, thanks for coming, Geno Smith. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that would be close in a poll. But, it's – you understand any guy, any coach, new or not, he's not new. He had a year there, barely made it through, it feels like. I mean, I don't know how – it seemed like most people thought – he probably should get fired, but it's only year 1, so they're going to stay with it, is the vibe. So you want to support your guys and talk them up and all that, but Aaron Glenn just there should be a checklist, whether he's got people, media associates, directors of media, whatever, vice president of media relations, consulting him on things not to say. I feel like any reference to the Super Bowl, the Promised Land, anything that is synonymous with the greatest success you could ever hope for,
drop it,
are things you don't want to reference.
No.
Right now. Like just no. There's not an appetite for that. You're going to sound like you are delusional, which I think is how it came off.
Yes.
And it's not even that they've got a guy coming off a terrible season to begin with. And yes, Geno Smith did rehabilitate his career after leaving the Jets. Eventually, it took him a few stops, but he got there. But they've already done this. They've already tried him as their guy. And okay, he's different now. Sure. Okay. I don't know. Are you getting the Geno that earned a contract extension in Seattle, or the Geno that got kicked out of Vegas because it was terrible?
I've been kicked out of Vegas.
I mean, I heard Brad was in here, Brad Ryder. I was listening on the way in. He said, it'd be like if the Bills this year decided to bring E.J. Manuel back. Like, this is our best idea.
I've not been kicked out of Vegas.
No.
You don't. It's back to what we were talking about before with McDermott and Brady. Like, just leave the Super Bowl over there. Leave that. You're a chump if you're talking about the promised land. If it happens, it happens. You're a legend. But you're going to be one anyway. Get to the playoffs. I wonder if Jet fans know that the Sabres are about to break their drought, because it's like the same length.
Right.
You don't have company anymore, Jets. It's not official, but it's about to be. Bills have owned the Jets. Going back to that opener they lost when Rodgers tore his Achilles. Last 5 games, all wins. Only one was close. That's a game at the Jets in prime time when Cook misses. But the other scores for the last 5 meetings: 32-6, 40-14, 30-10, 35-8. And dare I say it, a couple of those games were not even that close. I mean, 40-14 was 40-0 when they took Rodgers out.
And at least one of those games were against Bills backups.
Yeah, I mean, pretty bleak. Promised land. How about 9-8? That would seem pretty good to most neutral observers. Sal Capaccio after the update. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Sabres game night tonight as Buffalo will play host to the Islanders. Pregame is at 6 for a 7 p.m. puck drop and some lineup notes for tonight. After just 3 games in Rochester, it looks like Zach Metsa is going to be back in the lineup. And in terms of who's starting in net, all signs are pointing to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen getting the start tonight, and that would be his 2nd game in a row. And for more on tonight, Paul Hamilton has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. 9 of the games across the NHL, some notable ones to keep an eye on. These are all at 7. Bruins host the Stars. Detroit is at Pittsburgh. The Lightning have Montreal in town. Ottawa is down in Florida versus the Panthers. And then the Flyers are at Washington, while at 7:30, Columbus, they host Carolina. Bills head coach Joe Brady spoke with the media today in the owners' meetings in Phoenix, Arizona. You can listen back to that on the Odyssey app or our website, WGR550.com. Stay tuned for the latest, including some rule changes in the NFL, as Sal Capaccio is going to join the show next. And then in baseball, just after 7:30, the Bisons are in Omaha versus the Storm Chasers. That game is going to be on the bet 15-20. While in the majors, the Jays host the Rockies just after 7. The Mets are in St. Louis at 7:45. And then out west, the Yankees, they take on the Mariners at 9:40. And heads up, football fans, as Pittsburgh prepares to welcome the nation to the unofficial beginning of the football season, the celebration will begin the night before with an unforgettable invite-only night of music taking place Wednesday, April 22nd at the Rivers Casino Event Center featuring Jason Aldean, John Morgan, and Shane Profit. Visit Odyssey.com/the night before to enter now for your chance to win this national contest. Prizes include round-trip airfare, a 2-night hotel stay, and 2 tickets to the show. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Pretty confident that where Sal is, conditions are superior to where we are, as there are possibilities of tornadoes, maybe to the south of us. Severe thunderstorm warnings in effect here up around Erie County and thereabouts. Can't be possible that in Arizona you would have this today. So hopefully it's another glorious day there, Sal. And we've got some fodder from this morning that we'll get to. What have the last 24 hours or so been like?
Well, first of all, it is actually sprinkling right now here. And I didn't think you're supposed to have that in the desert, any rain, but it did this morning a little bit. It is right now. I'm actually standing outside the conference center, but I'm looking in. And the reason is, just so you guys know, Roger Goodell has not spoken yet. We don't have a time. But if he's going to speak while I'm on this call with you and I see commotion going on, I might have to bolt. Now, just let you know. But I don't think that's going to happen. But just let you know, I'm looking in there. Last night was great. You know, the party we talk about, the reception out on the lawn, just absolutely amazing. Got to see a lot of people from the NFL, from the broadcast industry, coaches, GMs, people that have worked in Buffalo, caught up with Joe Shane and his family. Saw Nick Sirianni there. You know, I'm very good friends with Jay Sirianni, his brother. And, we caught up about, the family and stuff like that. That's what last night's about. That's what I love about this. I think, to me, that is the best thing about this event, and maybe the best event on the calendar for someone like me who loves to kind of build relationships in the industry, and for people to kind of just have a chance to talk with each other about what's going on with life and with football. That being said, got up early this morning, had the AFC coaches breakfast. Joe Brady obviously sat at his table with the local media contingent on hand, and we fired questions off. Joe was 15 minutes early, so we went for 45 instead of the normal half hour. And, we covered a lot of different topics.
And at one point, I'll just set you up for this because you were present for it, okay. But I'm into the story about Mike Vrabel crumpling up his nameplate. What did that look like?
It was just kind of funny. Like, again, this is a much more relaxed environment than the Combine. Like, the Combine is very structured, very, everybody's evaluating these prospects and everything's, all about data and all that kind of stuff. This is people just talking to each other. And Vrabel was at his table, and he got up a little bit earlier than Joe Brady was done. Joe was still sitting with us, and he walked by the table. And now you have to understand these, little plastic placards they had they're kind of flimsy, and actually Joe Brady's was falling off constantly. When we got to his table, it wasn't sitting up like a normal flag. It was on the table. And every time one of us tried to put it back, it would just fall down. And we were sitting right underneath like an air conditioning vent, so we couldn't kind of get it to stay. So it was kind of sitting there on the table. It wasn't like it was in the flag little holder. So, Vrabel was walking by, and he kind of looks, and he just kind of reached in, he grabbed it, crumpled it up, threw it back on the table. And then Joe laughed, and everybody kind of had a little laugh at it, like, hey, that was Vrabel doing that. So I just think it was a funny moment between two guys who I also saw hanging out last night with Brandon Beane at the reception as well.
Well, what do we do?
Sal, I said earlier, like I know I'm going to hear your explanation. Mike had told me what you guys were texting and how you were characterizing this, and I said I want to reserve the right to ignore everything you said, because I think it's more fun to be mad at Mike Vrabel for being a bully. So especially
Totally.
like you mentioned, like they were hanging out last night. Like, who knows? There could have been an inside joke from last night, even that was involved in that, or whatever. So, like, if they were seen socially 12 hours before this happened, it diffuses it probably almost entirely. But I don't want that to be true. I want to be mad at Mike Vrabel. My life is better if I'm mad at Mike Vrabel, I think.
I totally understand that, and I get it. I wish there was some salacious story behind it. I wish they were yelling at each other last night, getting in each other's faces, and then Vrabel just decided to take it out of him at the AFC coaches breakfast, and there was a throwdown. Yeah, I definitely wish that were the case, but it wasn't. Ben Volin, he was kind of going around the tables. He covers the Patriots and the Bills, and he went over to Joe Brady and asked him about the Patriots and win the division. Does that get you more motivated, or how you approach your job or something like that? And Brady said something about hey, I didn't even watch the Super Bowl. And then Ben asked him a question about that, meaning because it was the Patriots in. He's like, well, I don't really care who was in it. It's just like I'm mad that we're not in it. That became kind of a thing right there. So there was a little bit of that, but it wasn't to any kind of level of WWE storylines.
Bulldog was saying earlier that if some scenario plays out down the road, somebody remembers this thing today and calls us and reminds us of like Vrabel and Brady and the little plastic car. But super old school would be to be like, I don't want Brady socializing with Mike Vrabel the night before either. I don't want to hear that.
Or Bean, anybody in the organization. No,
you're the enemy. We don't need to be friends.
Wow.
I know. I'm not saying. I'm not ready to go that far.
There were donkeys at this thing last night. I'm not kidding you. There were literally
donkeys.
There was an area where some of the people bring their family and kids, and I went over there, and that's where I saw Nick Sirianni. Went over to say hi, and there were like two donkeys right there. I mean, I would say it was a laid back atmosphere last night, guys, and that's what happens,
The donkeys were serving what purpose? Donkey rides for kids?
I think they might. I didn't see a kid on the donkey, but I'm pretty sure they were probably giving donkey rides at some point.
Yeah, okay.
Or at least they were going up and petting them. I
petting
guess.
area.
All right. The petting zoo at the NFL owners meetings.
That's right. Yeah.
Boy, Sal, you are living some kind of life, I got to tell you. Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline with us from Phoenix, side of the NFL owners meetings. All right. Well, so the Vrabel thing, pushed to the side, the crumbling up the nameplate. What stands out from what Joe Brady was asked? Is there anything that you sensed him maybe being uncomfortable talking about during this thing?
No, Joe seems pretty comfortable about everything, but you could tell sometimes when he doesn't want to kind of lean all into a question, just kind of give you a general answer. And, that just kind of goes with the territory as a coach, but I think also a first-time head coach. I just wrote about it, WGR550.com. I asked him about his communication with Keon Coleman, where he's at right now. When Joe was hired, he said he told Keon Coleman, the best thing that's happened to you is me being your head coach. Here we are a couple months later now, after Brandon Beane talked about Keon's maturity issues, hopefully not affecting him, off the field. Joe kind of reiterated that point. But, he compared his work ethic and his personality to the players he had at LSU, like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, not by name. He said, guys I coached at LSU. And he basically said again, as long as if he's going to show up on time and be there and do what he's supposed to do, everything else is going to fall into place because his work ethic is so good. And I just keep getting this sense that, they're promoting him as the football player, but they still have it in the back of their head that can they trust him? And, they're not going to say, can we trust him? But it's still there of, as long as he does this, as long as he does that. And I think there's a belief, and I've gone maybe more now to – he did say, by the way, he did actually use the quote, Keon is on this football team. So from that, I'll say, you're right, he did say that. Keon's on this football team now. Does he mean right now? Does he mean
right. I mean, literally, he's correct. Right.
Correct. But I took it as meaning he's going to be a receiver on 2026, and you can read the quotes I wrote online. But I just thought that was an interesting, kind of interaction about Keon Coleman, and once again reiterating that faith in him.
Because what I'm waiting to say now is, sure, again, they're going to talk him up all they can while he is on the Buffalo Bills. But, maybe you got a scenario on your hands here where, the draft comes and goes, and, whether it's on Thursday night or sometime on Friday, right? Like at 26, let's just say, right? Good edge options are gone, right? They don't feel like they want to draft a safety that soon. They got their eyes on linebackers on Saturday, and they just end up at, if we draft Casey Concepcion, let's say, or we draft any receiver at 26, what does that do for, is that then we auction Keon Coleman for the best we can get? But if it happens that the receivers are gone, they don't like any of the ones that are there, and the Texas A&M defensive end, Howell, is there, and they make that pick, well, then maybe Keon Coleman is on the Bills, right? It depends on whether they can effectively replace him or not, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a great point. And what I've said about this, which is where does he also fit when he is on the team? Because if he's the number 4 or even number 5, you're kind of like, are you comfortable with that? You just drafted this guy where he was, top of the second round, and it hasn't gone great the last 2 years. Are you okay with having him as your 4th or 5th guy? And then, what is that dynamic like throughout the year? And then today, I also asked Joe about, Khalil Shakir. Do you want him returning punts? Where do you stand with that? And he said in an ideal world, you'd love to have somebody else do it, but Khalil's a football player. They're going to rely on him a lot to be on the field a lot. And then DJ Moore, that was one that came up. So what I'm getting to is the way he spoke about DJ Moore, the way he talked about Khalil Shakir. We know those guys are at the top of the pecking order. And I have belief, just from talking to people, that they still believe very much so that Joshua Palmer, will be healthy and very much a part of what they do. And that brings me to where Keon is. And you're right about that, Bulldog. And I still think there's a space to draft a guy, and you could justify that guy being your 4th guy, a return man, whatever. Keon, I know he can play some special teams, and I know that he can return some stuff, but that's not really what his role is. So I just think we got to let this kind of play out as we go through the offseason and see where all this lands.
Sal, there were some comments from Brandon Beane about Dalton Kincaid. They pick up the 5th-year option. I'm curious for what you think Brady thinks of Kincaid or might want to do with him. And I guess this probably has to start with the old load management topic, because there is concern about this, it seemed, from Beane already, and we're months away. And I also remember you, when they drafted Kincaid, talking about this pick, describing it as that this is what Ken Dorsey wanted. The idea to have big slot, seam stretcher, what Kincaid offered in traits. What is Brady's opinion of Kincaid and how he might, yes, he has been the offensive coordinator, I know already, but how he might want to use him going forward?
He was asked today about Dalton Kincaid, and I didn't realize the stat. It was Lance Lysowski that had the stat from the Buffalo News that he put out there while he was asking a question. And I guess that the Bills' offense scored a touchdown more a game with Kincaid on the field versus without him on the field, I think. That's the stat. That's a huge number when you think about that. That's a huge amount of points, right? And Joe really talked about how much of a difference maker he is. And, making sure that he's available and making sure, and kind of the same theme of Brandon Beane. He didn't use the words load management or anything like that. But I think Joe Brady is very much all in on Dalton Kincaid and what he can provide for the offense. He did mention mismatches. He mentioned against the safety, against the linebacker, what he can do. Think about some of the, really tough catches he made last year. And I think about the one in Denver that maybe I think it put him up in the game in the playoffs. And I think they have a real big plan for him as long as he does stay healthy. But again, that's been the issue with Dalton Kincaid. But I do think that Joe Brady wants to use him a lot. I think the question for me, Mike, is what does Joe Brady think about using, 11 personnel versus, a fullback last year a lot. You lose Reggie Gilliam. They have not replaced him. Are they going to do that? Are they going to lean into the 12 and the 13 with Jackson Hawes? Is he going to be a part of, the running game a little bit more and replacing what Gilliam did? I think all of that gets baked into how do you want to use your personnel? And that goes back to Keon Coleman too. you can who's on the field and who's not, right? And how do you want to play that? I think it's super interesting because we're now kind of getting late in the process here, and I don't see a fullback on this roster, and I don't know how they want to play that.
Yeah, I
Pick
think
26.
I think I think pondering like where Kincaid, how Brady views Kincaid is interesting from the perspective of like how much it's all so predicated on what they can, and they won't know answers to this. What can they get out of him? What can they count on? And so building your offense around, to an extent, a player that you can't count on makes me wonder whether you need to double down and get another version of that. Like, do you need another pass-catching tight end? I know there's not room. They just reworked Knox's contract. Hawes seems secure, so I don't know what to really do. But I feel like I've got a dangerous, maybe game-impacting player, but I don't know how often I'll be able to unleash him. And, boy, that seems like one arm tied behind your back.
Right. Well, I would offer this, though. I think if the Bills had serious concerns about Dalton Kincaid's health, they would not pick up his fifth-year option. They would let it play out, and they would have other mechanisms to be able to have him on the team. They could use a transition tag. It'd be really great. They could use a franchise tag. They could still try to extend him. Now, you're giving yourself insurance, but it is a guaranteed number that he's coming back for the fifth year. But if the Bills really felt like that they were very concerned. So to me, the proof is I think they believe he's going to stay healthy and be a big part of what they're doing going forward, or else they would not have locked themselves in for 2 more years.
I would say a day 3 pick at tight end is in the range of outcomes because it's supposed to be a super deep tight end class, and teams are adding to their tight end rooms all the time. I mean, Pittsburgh had 4 on the field at a time here and there last year, so I think there could be room for one more guy. He's almost maybe Kincaid insurance based on his style of play. Not that you'd expect the moon from a guy picked in the 5th round as a rookie, but I could see them, considering that.
And maybe even hoping to get him through to the practice squad or something, just have him here in case they have a need.
I mean, for obvious reasons.
Think you have to remember they have Kaliki Latu on the roster as well. And I think that's a guy that at the end of the year, he was kind of de facto your Dalton Kincaid kind of, insurance as a pass catcher.
Okay. I was going to say, for obvious reasons, we haven't spent a lot of time on that position. But might be worth a question for Chris Trapasso tomorrow. Or, by the way, for Pete Metzelaars on Friday. He'll be on with us Friday afternoon. A few minutes left with Sal Capaccio. We have not addressed the Deion Dawkins comments yet today, Sal. Do you have a take ready?
Deion is an entertainer. He's a showman. He'll say that himself. I think sometimes, he's in a situation where he says some things and he gets kind of fired up and amped up. And then, as you guys heard and saw the stream, and I watched it this morning, he kind of quickly kind of backtracked a little bit because I think he understood that, I guess I'd say you never want to pick a fight with the fans, right? That's just not a good idea. And maybe he realized, what he was saying was probably not the best course of action. And then he tried to kind of unwind it a little bit. I know Deion Dawkins loves being in Buffalo. He has been a Buffalo Bill and community supporter and part of the Buffalo Bills in the community for a long time. And today, I think, maybe rubbing some people the wrong way, but hey, Deion Dawkins has, broad shoulders, figuratively and literally, because I think, some things have happened in the past where he will just say, hey, I'm an entertainer and, I say what's on my mind sometimes, and then we move forward.
What do you have specific knowledge of what he's reacting to exactly? Was it the idea that, I don't know, for 5 minutes one day we talked about the idea of trading him, I think, and quickly decided, I think, in this room amongst the three of us, I don't think that's in the cards.
That's not even criticism.
Right. But I guess that could be perceived as okay, you're done with me. You think you can do it without me or something like that. I don't want to be completely blind to what's going on with the fan base, but I just haven't gotten the sense that Deion Dawkins was in the crosshairs.
No, I would say that, first of all, he said fans. He did not say media.
Right.
So if there's anything because I listened for that intently, is he going to say, hey, they want me traded or someone brought up being traded or anything like that? He never brought that up. He just brought up fans, DMs, things like that. And I don't know exactly what he's getting. I will say, we all know it's pretty recognizable. Deion didn't have his best year last year. Still a really good player. but he didn't play at the, I think, level he expected, the team expected, or fans want and expect. And you know what comes with that, right? When that happens, it doesn't matter. They just get a lot of people. We get them, right, in our industry.
Right.
And people come at you, and they shoot you DMs or they tweet at you. You know, I always remember, you know, I listened to the audiobook. I'm not going to say I read. I listened to Jay Glazer's audiobook, which I recommend to anybody, by the way. It's called Unbreakable. And Jay Glazer had a story about when he was on the Giants beat, and he was a Giants reporter, and he was doing a local like radio show every week back in the day with one of the Giants. I can't remember who it was. He talked about it. And he said that during the interview, the player basically kind of just slammed the fans. Like he was just like really mad about something for this kind of thing we're talking about. And Jay Glazer turned off the recorder, and he said, I just want to say, I'm going to give you one chance. Don't ever pick a fight with the fans. It will never end well for you. If you want to do it after I turn this recorder back on, that's fine. I'm just giving you that advice from someone who's been in this business. He turned back on the recorder. The player didn't do that, and he said the player wound up kind of thanking him like later, like, I really appreciate that. That could have gone awry. And whenever this happens, I always think about that story, and I always say, that's right. You just don't pick fights with fans.
Glazer with an interesting tweet yesterday from these meetings with, you know, drinking beers with
day
half
drinking,
the coaches.
coaches day drinking. Yeah, like I that was yesterday. I only saw it today. I didn't know what day it was from.
Today'd be pretty early.
Yeah, that's it.
I guess that's
yesterday.
Right.
Yes,
he does
right.
it. I believe it's like a 1 to 3 p.m. thing on Monday every year here at the Combine. I'm sorry, at the owners' meetings. He does it every year. And I think he had 28 of 32 coaches there this year.
Well, he is the top guy, I think. And he's not in the system like Schefter and Rappaport, where everything is so processed and corporate. So when he says it, it's true. And he must have relationships with those guys. I mean, if they're willing to drink on social media with them in the afternoon, I think he's probably got a pretty good reputation with the group. Sal, is this it? Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is it. Yeah. Goodell's going to talk, and then back to Buffalo for me tomorrow. You know, so yeah, he's going to talk here, and then that's it until the draft. I'll talk about that in a second. Let me just say it's on my mind because Jay is here, and I spoke to Jay about this, and I've told Jay this, and this is just an aside. What you just said, Mike, is so right about that man. Like, I'm telling you, if you ever get a chance for anybody, read his book, listen to his audiobook. It's called Unbreakable. He has depression and anxiety in his life. And to be quite honest, the reason why I listen is I have some anxieties in my life, and he's a guy in my industry. So I listened to his book, and it kind of, and I don't mean to be emotional, it kind of like changed my life, actually, my perspective on a lot of things, listening to a man in our industry and about these relationships and about, you know, players and coaches and how he developed these relationships over the years and what mattered and what didn't. And you're right about that. And he has stories in there that will blow your mind about some of the coaches and people he's come across and what like conversations they've had. So anyway, I just want to say it's really cool. And you're right about that. The Bills will begin their off-season workout program next Tuesday. How about that? April 7th. Pretty amazing. That's when players will begin on-field conditioning. Josh Allen is expected to be there. Everybody's expected to be there. It is voluntary, however, though. And then they'll go for a couple of weeks before we get into the draft. So we do not expect to hear from Brandon Beane or anybody until really the week of the draft.
Do the Bills get like extra rounds of stuff because they have a new head coach? Far as like voluntary workouts and that kind of thing? Is that still
yes? They get to start 2 weeks early. They get to start April 6th/7th. You know, check-in day, all that, and that's what they will do. Joe Brady confirmed that to us today. The rest of the league, if you have the rest of the league, a third of the league changed coaches. Those teams get April 6th. The teams that did not change coaches, they can't go until April 20th.
Not a small thing, I bet, in the minds of a lot of football people, those 2 weeks. Maybe a way to break a tie on whether to keep a coach. 2 more weeks of practice. Brady's been here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sal, I think you can count an audiobook as a read book. I wonder about that too, but most of my quote reading is now listening, and it's just easier.
I agree. I appreciate that because I always feel weird saying, yeah, I read his book, and I didn't really read it. I just listened to it when I was just doing some laundry or, you know, sitting in the sauna or just driving, you know, listening to the audiobook. And I say, oh, yeah, I read his book.
For me, I'll count it as read. I'm doing that in my life. Sal, thank you for your work. Have a nice trip home.
All right, guys, you got it. Thank you.
That's our Sal Capaccio again in Phoenix at the NFL owners' meetings. His appearances are always brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
Most recent audiobook purchase for me, The Warren Report.
Oh, boy.
The whole thing. With appendixes. Is that a word? Appendices, maybe? 34 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
How much do I have left?
Oh, my gosh.
Little bit every night, some in the morning.
Is it like in
9.5 hours left.
Is it like a lot? Is it legalese? I feel.
Some.
Yeah.
It's the official
Yeah. Right.
report on the assassination. So a lot of stuff that you might know about now had not even really come to light yet. But I'm a 100% believer that it was Oswald only. So this is confirming priors. 34 hours of audiobook right here in this little device.
Yeah.
But I'm in the car. Like, that's when I like to listen or around bedtime.
Yeah.
I read Matthew Collar's PFF book, Driving to Florida, like the whole thing. He narrates that, by the way. And RIP to PFF.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Matt's book is really good. He did a great job on that.
I'm not against saying you've read a book if all you've done is listen to it. I've never done it. And I don't read as much. I need a light. I've always got I need something. I don't have
There's one right here.
I don't have good enough light in my bedroom situation for me to be able to read a book. And I found reading them on I like having the physical. I'm a vinyl guy. I like having the physical document in my hand. And so reading a book by someone I'm very excited about on my iPad just doesn't really do it for me. I don't know.
Imagine you with this Warren Report.
I need the book. Oh, wow. That would be.
Appendix 10, expert testimony.
I need a separate room for that thing. That's what I would need.
Yes, an addition.
Library.
You would need an addition.
Put a library in my home.
Lines are open, 803-0550 if you want to talk about Dawkins or Mike Vrabel and Joe Brady or Zach Metza and the Sabres. We're here for it. We'll be doing the very same thing. Pregame at 6 for Sabres Islanders on WGR.
Sabres pregame coming up at 6 o'clock as the Sabres are at home hosting the Islanders for a 7 p.m. puck drop. Some lineup notes for tonight after just 3 games in Rochester. Looks like Zach Metsa is going to be back in the lineup, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen appears to be getting the start in net, and this would be his 2nd game in a row. Paul Hamilton does have more on tonight's matchup at our website, WGR550.com. We've got 9 other games across the league. Some notable ones to keep an eye on include also at 7, the Bruins hosting the Stars. Detroit is at Pittsburgh. The Lightning have Montreal in town. Ottawa's down in Florida versus the Panthers, and the Flyers are at Washington. While at 7:30, Columbus, they play host to Carolina. Bills head coach Joe Brady did speak with the media today at the NFL owners meeting in Phoenix, Arizona. You can listen back to that conversation on the Odyssey app or our website, WGR550.com. Our own Sal Capaccio also has a piece up at our website for more on what Brady had to say. And in baseball, just after 7:30, the Bisons are in Omaha versus the Storm Chasers. That game is going to be on the bet 1520. While in the majors, the Jays host the Rockies just after 7. The Mets are in St. Louis at 7:45. And out west, the Yankees, they take on the Mariners at 9:40. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
If Keon just takes care of himself off the field and he just shows up, he's going to be good to go. The growth that Keon's going to have from this year to next, like Keon is on our football team. I was the first to tell everybody, like, I want a Keon Coleman. So Keon's not going to just be pushed aside. Like, he's going to continue to develop. And Drew Terrell's going to, we have a great plan of what we're going to do to be able to get him to be the receiver that we ultimately drafted to be. And we're in constant communication with him. He works, right? He reminds me a lot of the guys I was with at LSU in terms of their personality, their work ethic. It's just about now just making sure I'm there, doing what I have to do so that I can go out on the football field and do my thing.
Joe Brady from the owners' meeting. So today is it. 2 days, get in, get out. Bison's at Omaha, Bulldog.
I'm glad they're not home.
Weather. You've got the Sabres. You've got ADP chasing at 7:30 tonight. And you've got the Bisons, if you want them, on the radio. Got to take advantage of this Omaha team, 0-3.
Oh, they may never win again.
Can't rule it out. The Bisons got a win in their 3rd of 3 games over the weekend at home against Scranton. So they are 1-2. Here is Zach with us. Hello, Zach.
Hey, guys. How's it going? I just had kind of a nuanced question for you. I asked the guys on the morning show this earlier on in the week, but I just kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts. I was curious what you're thinking about as far as how much coaching matters in late game moments. I think that we've heard a lot of hum-ho about the Sabres this year, giving up late goals and how it's been costing them points here and there. And I think we could say the same thing about the Bills. But, I hate to insert my opinion before I get your answer, but mine would just be that, certainly on the Bills side of the house, there were several different iterations of the team out there on the field. And same things happened. 13 seconds, missed field goal by Bass, Sal Kincaid dropping the ball, you name it. And then, Lindy's had moments with the Sabres. You got to go a while back, but they had teams that did make great plays late in the game and win big games in late moments. So
I don't know where to start here. Like, these are obviously 2 different sports. You're going back to when Ruff was the coach before he left, for examples. Like, do we have numbers on whether it's actually true? The original premise is true that either the Bills or the Sabres are both bad or not as good as they should be late in games? Like, is that the starting point?
I guess so. It's more hypothetical, and I would zoom out even more than just the teams. I'm just thinking how much it actually matters. It's something, late in the game when all the cards are on the table, coaches take a lot of blame. So I just wonder if it's like how much they actually deserve when it comes down to that. And,
I think to begin to answer the question, you'd need to know some things that we probably don't get to know. My first thought when you broach the topic as far as hockey goes, like what does a coach, what does any member of that coaching staff have to do when they're leading, the Sabres are leading with 10 minutes to go by 1 or 2 or 4 minutes to go, or what? Like, what are they telling the team to do? Are they telling the team to just fall back and take punch after punch, just, play in a shell, try to just get the game home? Or is it like more proactive, just keep playing your game, puck possession, get it in their end, cycle down low, whatever. You don't need to necessarily try to score, but don't just play defense.
Am I wrong that I don't sense this Sabres team having this issue? Whether they did in other years, I'm due respect to the caller's, like, whatever he's trying to figure out here. Like, I don't really care what they were last year. And I mean, I got 74 games under my belt here. Do you think differently? Like, they've had games where they had a cushion and it got
tighter. Yeah, like the Vancouver game comes to mind where they had, what was it, 4-0, whatever. They had a 3-goal lead and it quickly became a 1-goal game before it ended.
But even that is 3 months ago,
right? They did the Tampa game before the one they won handily down there was a game they got scored on late. There was a Washington game here at home recently that was a regulation loss where they got scored on late.
Anaheim.
In a tie game. Anaheim, they got scored on late.
Tampa and Anaheim might both have been power plays.
They were, yes.
All right. I don't know. I just don't think
Yep.
this is really on the table.
I think one of the things that this team has been really good at is playing with leads in third periods. Are they perfect? No. But I think they have been, without even going through and like counting up games from, if you wanted to go to last year when they were a little wonkier at it, I just feel like they have done a good job of defending overall, and that includes plenty of late game situations. Again, they're not bulletproof. No one is going to be in that kind of metric.
Record kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think they're fine. I mean, I don't sense a team that doesn't know what to do late in games or is getting tense or stressed. So I'm not even sure, where the question's coming from.
I don't know.
So
okay. I'd like more of that in the Sabre notes. Maybe if you go to the game, you get do they still have a packet? It's been a while since I've been up there. Or is it all digital? I'd like to see, record after. The Bisons give you that. They give you, leading after 8, trailing after. I've enjoyed that over the years. All that kind of stuff. The Sabres are big on, in their notes, particular player streaks and successes against the team they're playing that night. And I just have no use for that. Today's had, respectfully, because I don't have to be right about this, but in his last 3 games against the Islanders, Ryan McLeod has recorded 3 assists.
Yeah.
Is there anything interesting about that? I mean, that goes back to last year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that doesn't really do anything for me.
They do that a lot. Whoever they're playing, there'll be a series of statistics pertaining to that opponent. And I would just never even think of that. The fact that Dahlin might have had one where he was something maybe like the leading defenseman scorer for the Sabres ever against Montreal. Maybe that's a tiny bit interesting. At best, I would think.
I've always skipped that section. No offense to the people putting those notes together. It's just it's never been that interesting to me.
The stuff on the left, I love. Well, I mean, it's usable.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
this is they're going for a 2,000th win tonight.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep.
That should be in there.
I don't mind it with a goalie against an opponent, provided the team is are enough of the important people still the same. How does Luukkonen do against the Florida Panthers? I'm interested in that.
Fair enough. The goalie. Fair enough.
The goalie. Shooters, I don't. Although I guess the same thing could. You could just take it all the way out. It's the same concept, right? How does Tage Thompson do against Sergei Bobrovsky? But I don't know. I don't really pay much attention to any of it, even the goalie thing. But I would say the goalie thing is the slightest way in for me.
Baseball gives you tons of that.
Yeah.
Pitcher versus hitter. But what I've heard is it's even that's irrelevant. Because you want it to be predictive, right? Why is it interesting? This player does well against this team. But in hockey, it just seems so trivial and random.
the leading after two, leading when scoring first, or winning when scoring first, and all that stuff, I'm assuming is part of the regular game notes because it comes up on the broadcast, both Buffalo's own broadcast and the national broadcast. And I'm assuming that that's in like those stacks of notes that you referred to that we used to get when we were down there. And the thing about that is like almost any good team is going to be good at those things. Not necessarily scoring first. All right. Sabres have also had some crazy streak that I think ended in the Detroit game where they'd held a lead in like 20, I think it ended Friday, 27 straight games. I don't think they ever were in the lead in Detroit. They fell down 3-0 and never caught up. And I think that did end a streak of a lot of games where they had been in front at some point in the game, right? The Anaheim game would qualify as that, where they took a lead late and then lost it. Anyway, but most good teams are really good at protecting a lead going into the third period.
Yeah, I like that.
Like it's usually like at this time of the season, you've got probably like a team that is a good, like a playoff team, a team that's going to end with like between 98 and 110 points is probably like 25-2-1 or something in games where they're leading going into the third period. And I'll bet the Sabres number is something around that.
Well, for how they're built, you'd like to think so. Their defense is their top strength. I love about hockey that for all the obsession that so many broadcasts have with scoring first, keys to the game, get that first goal, that historically teams' winning percentages are almost identical scoring the second goal or the third goal than when they score the first goal. So when have you ever heard anybody say, like, get that second goal?
Right.
I don't think I ever have. But it's like you have the same chances of winning.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a favorite of mine. If they win the night, they'll be at 100 points for the 10th time in their history. You'd like to think they would get there eventually with 8 games to go. If they win them all, 16 points added to the 98, that'd be 114 franchise record. But only if they win them all can they break the franchise record at this point. Not seriously a goal.
What year is that? Is that from 07 or is that?
Both 06, 07 and 75, which is in 2 fewer games. So that should be the should be the winner.
The record, yeah.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550. This is WGR. As we get into spring, make sure you can trust your Sabres and Islanders tonight in Buffalo. Pregame at 6. We'll hear from Paul Hamilton, Lindy Ruff, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and Alex Tuck. Then Brian Koziol takes over. Tune in throughout the game and afterward for Brian's thoughts with Paul alongside. Fantasy question. So today, as you may know,
Utah.
Well, that's one answer.
Sorry.
Let's see how it stacks up when the question after the question is asked. Today is March 31st. In a lot of leagues, it's like cut down day for Dynasty. So I have to trim rosters from sometimes 24 to 16.
Oh boy, that's a lot of people.
Pretty good chunk. And so that tends to mean fringe wide receivers, basically anybody that isn't Cortland Sutton on Denver, for example, or New England's guys, just sort of, I don't know what I've got here. And the backup running backs, some of whom are more established than others. What are the odds that Ray Davis is second on the Bills next year in rushing stuff? Are they better than 50-50? Is it Ty Johnson? Is it someone else? I have Ray Davis on teams. Simple logic. He's the handcuff to James Cook. Then Cook went and had 2 monster years, and Davis is returning kickoffs.
Yeah. I think the answer here could be yes. Could be second in rushing, but I don't think that means you'd still want to have him on your team. I think he wasn't second last year, was he? Did Johnson rush the ball more than because Davis hardly did anything last year?
Allen, but then he was next.
Okay, right, running back. Okay. Yeah, I think that, and only 75 more yards than Ty Johnson. I'm looking at it now, regular season, 275 to 200.
On
8 more carries.
8 more carries.
I would be stunned if there was somebody new. The fact that Davis, you could have thought maybe, it's not really time yet, but if you were dissatisfied with how Davis played from scrimmage last year, the kicking thing is a whole nother piece of it, the kick returns. You could maybe try to draft someone maybe more dynamic, faster, or whatever, something different and more than what you've got. The fact that he's entrenched now as the all-pro kick returner tells me he's still going to be the running back room is going to be the same. I don't think they're going to add anyone until at the earliest next year.
Johnson still gives you that third down piece. Even if he did come up just short of Davis in rushing production, he caught more than double the passes that Davis did. And Johnson, by the way, also scored 5 touchdowns last year to Davis's 2.
I just don't think they'll do anything different, and that includes treating James Cook differently last year than they had any of the previous 3 seasons of his career. Like he became more of he just got more I didn't see it coming, but it happened. His snap share was up, and he produced. So I think they'll keep going with that. And I think the running back room will be exactly what it was last year.
Touchdowns scored last year. Cook and Allen, 14 each. Third, Kincaid and Johnson with 5 each, ahead of all the wide receivers. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog will be right back. This is WGR.
Sabres game night tonight for the Buffalo Sabres. They play host to the Islanders. Pregame in about an hour at 6 for a 7 p.m. puck drop. And some lineup notes for tonight. After just 3 games in Rochester, it looks like Zach Metso will be back in the lineup. And then in net, all signs are pointing to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen getting the start, and that would be his second game in a row. Paul Hamilton has more on tonight's matchup up at our website, WGR550.com. We do have 9 other games across the league. Some notable ones to keep an eye on include also at 7 o'clock, the Bruins hosting the Stars. Detroit is at Pittsburgh. The Lightning have Montreal in town. Ottawa is down in Florida versus the Panthers. And the Flyers are at Washington. While at 7:30, Columbus, they play host to Carolina. In the NFL, Bills head coach Joe Brady did speak with the media today. You can listen back to that audio over on the Odyssey app or our website, WGR550.com. And also at our website, Sal Capaccio has a piece detailing what Brady had to say today. Over in baseball, just after 7:30, the Bisons are in Omaha. They'll take on the Storm Chasers. That game is on the bet 15-20. And in the majors, the Jays host the Rockies just after 7. The Mets are in St. Louis at 7:45. And then out west, the Yankees, they take on the Mariners at 9:40. And heads up, football fans, as Pittsburgh prepares to welcome the nation to the unofficial beginning of the football season, the celebration is going to begin the night before with an unforgettable invite-only night of music taking place on Wednesday, April 22nd at the Rivers Casino Events Center featuring Jason Aldean, John Morgan, and Shane Profit. Visit Odyssey.com/the night before to enter now for your chance to win this national contest. And prizes include round-trip airfare, a 2-night hotel stay, and 2 tickets to the show. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones from West New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp
We were having a very serious conversation about mayonnaise here.
and the Bulldog
And don't even talk to me about weed.
on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Game night. We danced with the Mike Vrabel thing and a little bit Deion Dawkins. Game night. What's your latest on who you want? Right now, the Sabres are technically behind Tampa Bay. Tied in points, not worth parsing. Tampa has Montreal tonight, which is third. 4 points behind the Sabres only with the game in hand. That's good. The Sabres are a bigger betting favorite in their game than the Lightning are in theirs, which I suppose makes sense. Montreal's on a roll.
Yep.
Islanders, though, losers last night, but in a playoff spot. They're down to 7 games left, and I'm sure are feeling the pressure.
Yeah. I think the Islanders it might just be because they're the team right in front of me tonight. I don't know. I watched them last night. I mean, I got clobbered last night. The goalie is scary to me. Sorokin is just he's obviously had a terrible outing, and I think he got pulled 2 or 3 starts before the one last night with a rocky outing. I just feel like of the potential goaltender, I know you're not just going to play goalies here. You're going to play these whole hockey teams. But of the teams that you could potentially face, I mean, I should include Tampa. You could still play Tampa. And that's Vasilevsky, and that's Tampa is like, I'm not even really thinking about them for this because it's, to me, not as likely as it's almost anyone else. Because one of the two is probably going to win the division, and therefore you're not playing them until the second round should you both get there. So of the candidates, I feel like, and it's maybe not even that close, Sorokin is the scariest goalie I think you could play. Swayman might be next. And then maybe the guy the Sabres saw Friday night in Gibson would be, he's capable of doing that. I think he did a great job Friday night. They're in a tough spot right now, both they and Ottawa.
We'll see if Sorokin plays tonight, by the way.
Right.
I don't know yet.
He played 47 minutes last night, got pulled, and Rittich went in. And, it's always tough. Like, I saw different, reporters that are covering the game or covering the Islanders, and one of them said, like, we'll see if this means, the plan was for Rittich to play tomorrow in Buffalo, which might just be an assumption on a reporter's part because it's what always happens. Or it might be that they knew. Maybe the Petriqua told them, like, we're going to, each guy's going to play one of these games. But him getting pulled when he did, yeah, especially if he'd been pulled before the third, I feel more likely. He went through an intermission, went out there to start the third, and then 7 minutes in got pulled. I still might expect the backup if that was the plan, but I don't know. We'll have to wait.
I watched the third period of that game. It was 3-1 Islanders, then 5-3 Pittsburgh after 2. And I think you're thinking about that game still at that point. Like, let's come back. 6-3 was pretty early. And you still might be thinking that way. We're still playing to win here. 7-3, check please. And that's when he took Patrick Waugh. That's when he took out Sorokin, was 7-3. With still a lot of time left.
Right, 13 minutes. Yeah.
The idea of the comeback, I think that was it.
Yeah.
So I think they were playing to win until the moment at which he was removed. And then could have gone either way. I know Joe tweeted last night, this probably means Riddick, and I thought the opposite for this game with the Sabres. But Daily Faceoff doesn't have it yet. It says Riddick unconfirmed, which could either be that they sort of sense it or that it's just default.
Right,
because he didn't start last night.
It's just the assumption that they would not play the guy in back-to-back. But again, yeah, a playoff race and losing the game last night could change that. They could get together after the game. All right, somebody go talk to Sorokin, see how he's feeling, or maybe even wait till the morning. Like, hey, how you feel? You want to go tonight? Yeah, sure. And that might be it. I don't know. You can have, philosophy be damned. If the guy feels, if your number one comes to you even and says, hey, I'm good tonight if you want me, then you might defer to that.
By the way, the Islanders, who are, of course, in the conversation for these possible first-round opponents for the Sabres, they have, including last night and tonight, they have 3 back-to-backs left. One next week, Philadelphia, then at Carolina. Then they host Ottawa and Montreal back-to-back the final weekend before playing Carolina again. They have it tough.
That's tough. That is tough. They are a team that I said this last night watching them while they were up 3-1. It was going pretty well, and then it just the roof fell in on them. They just feel to me like a team that could be sneakily more dangerous than you think. The goalie's a big part of it. I tend to think of the Islanders the way the Islanders have been for maybe the back half of the drought, the Sabres playoff drought. And some of these years the Islanders were good enough to be playoff teams. Other years they weren't much better than the Sabres, I think. But they were always just sort of low event, shot blocking, just here come Cal Clutterbuck and Matt Martin and Casey Cizikas, and like, oh my God, still with these guys? Like, did they play with Mike Bossy? What am I doing here? Cizikas is still there. The other two are gone. I think Martin retired.
Nelson is gone. He was there.
Nelson was there. He's in Colorado now. But I just sort of have this, like, the Islanders, yuck.
Boring.
Yeah. And I don't know that really should be. I don't know how correct that is, because Schaefer is such an electric player. The rookie defenseman, he's already got over 20 goals. I mean, he's going to win the Calder in a waltz. And there's other good rookies, but he's just been so good that it's over. It was like halfway through the season. Like, that's it. That's a rookie of the year.
And he's still 18, right?
Right. So like that should give you pause on thinking they're the same old Islanders. But even saying that, the same old Islanders would concern me. If you're going to find a way, they might be a team that I perceive as being capable of, if the Sabres are living on river hockey, I don't exactly think they are. Can some teams slow them down? I feel like the New York Islanders are that team. Historically, again, not so much this year, so that's in my head. The goalie's really good.
Think about how that's relevant to the Boston conversation. Because your Boston position was, I don't know if they still are the, quote, Boston Bruins, but I kind of feel like they might be.
Yeah.
Because the history. And the Islanders definitely have that history.
Yeah.
Going back forever.
Yeah.
Kind of just tough to beat.
Yeah.
Or terrible.
Yeah.
They're either sort of tough to beat or they're bad.
Yeah. So for that reason, I'm not eager to see them, the Islanders. I don't feel great about this game tonight. I'm really glad the Sabres found a way to get Saturday night, just because the Islanders, And for me, a lot of this too is baggage. It's not just the shot blocking and all the stuff. It's, I'm a teenager, and like some of the most exciting Sabres teams we ever saw could not get past the Islanders. Now, it was an Islanders team that won 4 cups in a row. So, I mean, again, it's a whole different era, and that should not matter.
Were they great, though?
But for me, there's scar tissue there with the Islanders. Whereas, like, Philly, who I also, in that era, had, I lost to them in the Cup final. I couldn't beat them in Philadelphia. I've taken care of that. Like, the Sabres have banged them like a drum in the playoffs. I know they lost the last series they played, but like overall, I've exercised the demons of the past with the Flyers. The Islanders, the series in 07 didn't really do it for me. That even felt like it was close to being what I'm describing.
Yeah, it was.
We had a Sabres team that was a wagon, and you got Miro, barely getting stopped by Ryan Miller to preserve the series clinching win. There, it was tight.
So you're trying to decide between whether you want the Sabres to face the 90s Bruins or the 80s Islanders.
Right.
In the first round. Or the 70s Flyers.
Yeah, real helpful, Bulldog. Thanks for coming.
And Ottawa would be something like this too, right?
I guess.
06, 07.
I guess. But like,
I mean, it's completely normal.
I think Montreal, I mean, the standings tell you this, watching them play. Montreal scares me less. Even though their high end offensively is maybe as good as anybody in the league. Like they have somebody, you referenced it yesterday. Somebody on our show late last week said that their first line might be the best first line in hockey, right? Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slavkovsky. They really have a lot going, but I feel like all buttoned up defensively, goaltending. Like I think I can get them.
You know what's actually happened here, by the way? Like if the season were to end right now, the talk, like the Travis take about that one series out west, 2-3 in the Central, Dallas, Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
Right now, that's 100 points to 94. 2-3 in the Atlantic, Buffalo, Montreal, is 98 to 94.
Yep.
And for there to be 6 teams in the Atlantic Division with 86 points or more, and have the first place team in the Pacific have 87. That's very unusual. That's a dramatic gap. There are 11 teams in the East that are within 1 point of Anaheim or better. 11. That's crazy.
Yep. That division has been a joke this year.
The point about the playoff format, depending on the year, it's more and more under scrutiny. This year, the Canadians have really forced this, and the Sabres and the Lightning. I mean, they're all winning all the time. Boston.
Yep.
They forced it. So, I mean, you have 4 92-plus point teams in the Atlantic Division with still 8 to 9 games left.
Yeah, that thing with the Pacific, I mean, just, I don't know how out of shape everyone is on all this, but, like, what that means is that someone from that division is going to make the conference final. And that just kind of sucks. I mean, and there it is, crystallized. Like, you've got the 3 elite teams, if not more than that, but like those top 3 in the Central are all, to me, maybe the gap is a little bigger between Minnesota and Colorado than I'm giving it credit for. Like, it might be tough. You might balk at lumping Minnesota in with Colorado. Maybe Dallas belongs there more with Colorado than Minnesota does. Either way, some team like Anaheim or Edmonton, Vegas's record is horrible. Somebody's going to make the conference final.
How about this? When we were kids, or at least when I was, maybe this is more you were like in your 20s.
Okay.
When they went 1 versus 16. When the Islanders were winning their cups, the playoff format was 1 versus 16. If it was 1 versus 16 right now, how many Western Conference teams would be in the playoffs? 4. 16 is Washington. 17 is Edmonton.
Wow.
Well,
that's all you ever need to know about why they're never going to change back to that format.
1 to 16.
Because they would not want a year where only 4 teams from one conference make the playoffs.
Well, right.
I think.
That we know why they don't want to change the format, just like we know why they don't want to change the point system. The point system is rigged to make it look closer than it is. Not that it isn't super close in the Eastern Conference right now, but there'd be more. There might not be a different order necessarily. Depends on the distribution of overtime losses. But 3 points for a regulation win would stretch out the standings. It'd take getting used to, because a 4-point lead today might be like a 9-point lead that way. It'd still be the same, you know? So you'd have to adjust to that kind of mentally. But they don't want to change that, because sports is all about having more markets not lose interest. That's why baseball did all the things it did with wild cards and everything. They want as many markets as they can to stay with it as long as possible through the regular season. Then it's just an open tournament. Everybody appreciates and understands the randomness of it. And when asked about the potential unfairness of the playoff format last week or whatever, Gary Bettman's like, yeah, I don't know what you mean. Like, he's getting what he wants.
Right.
And the fact that Dallas and Minnesota might be unfair to those teams versus what the Pacific might, he doesn't care about that. That's not his top priority. He wants who's the team who's the mammoth? You're not falling for it. Seattle, some team that's like just on the outside of the Western picture to sort of be, hey,
way to keep moving.
2 weeks left. Philadelphia.
Right.
So that's what they want.
He wants more teams to feel like, I mean, the last time we met, you mentioned Philadelphia. I was like, they're dead. And now they're right there. They're right there with Ottawa and Detroit.
I don't deserve the credit. I mentioned it one time whenever it was the Monday after Boston played Detroit on ABC. They opened that broadcast, and Sean McDonough mentioned the Flyers making a move, and I sort of scoffed at it. So I was mentioning it sort of to make fun of that.
Okay, right.
The Flyers play the Islanders, I think, Friday. And they're 3 back with 2 games in hand right now. And the Islanders are not even in a wild card spot. They're in.
Right, they're third. Yeah, Pittsburgh's second, they're third.
If we went 1 versus 16, here are the series.
All right.
Just for fun.
All right.
Because I can complain about the current format as well as anybody. I just don't always know what I want, what I think it should be, other than my fantasy of top teams picking their opponents, which is, I think the fairest way to do it, frankly. 1 versus 16, Colorado versus Washington. How about Washington going, wait a minute. We should still be in the conversation here. Just have to change the format first.
Are you sure that's, I don't have Washington at 16. Oh.
Points.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at points. I don't.
They have 83 points, tied with Edmonton for the 16th most.
Okay.
Are we on the same page?
Yeah, we are. Sorry. I can't count. That's my problem.
And they didn't reseed in the 80s. I think. We okay?
Yeah.
I think they didn't. So 1 versus 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did that change? Like maybe that was
I can barely remember.
Late 70s, I want to say, not 80s.
Yeah.
Because by the 80s, Adams division, by the 80s, you're playing in the division. Maybe 82.
You're playing Quebec and you're playing Montreal and Boston.
81, the Sabres played Minnesota.
Right, that wouldn't have been a division matchup.
Maybe 81 was the last year of 1 versus 16, I want to say.
Okay.
Avalanche versus Washington. Winner gets Boston or Pittsburgh. 8-9. Think of it as an NCAA bracket.
Okay.
4-13 is Carolina, Detroit. No stars for winning divisions or anything here. Just straight points. 5-12, Tampa Bay, Anaheim. Oh, we'd hate that. We would hate life. Tampa Bay gets Anaheim. Hey, straight points. So then you've got 3-14 should be Buffalo, Philadelphia. 6-11, Minnesota, Columbus. Winners meet. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Sabres, Flyers, winner gets either Minnesota or Columbus. And then 7-10 is Montreal Islanders, 2-15 is Dallas, Ottawa. Anyway, go back to your regularly scheduled lives after that little exercise. 1 versus 16. Could you go for that? I mean, what's fairest?
I think that gets you. That's a much more, I think, equitable playoff, because the best teams are at least going to have the opportunity to play the lesser teams, and if they get upset, then okay. But you should not. A team from the Pacific, right now, this awful division that you just said it, there's only 4 teams in the West that would be in the playoffs at all.
Anaheim would be the only team from the Pacific to make it.
Okay. One of those teams does not deserve to get a pass they got to win, but somebody's going to win their playdowns and be a series win away from the Cup final. And that just does not seem fair at all. And it is way more dramatic this year. Like you already said it. The disparity between that division and it's not just the Sabres division, but it's a great example, like how much better top to bottom that division is than the Pacific. That's the thing that is it's to me that's more worrisome but it's the same point. Minnesota, Dallas, one of those teams is going home after round 1 after putting up the 3rd best record in the league or something, or the 4th best record in the league. And that is going to be in like, sure, could they have lost to a lower seeded team if they were matched up? Yeah, upsets can happen. But you should not have to play a juggernaut that you've been battling with the whole year for playoff seeding in the first round. You should get a team that just squeezed in if you're at the top of the heap. And that should, ease your ability to make it further. And I just feel like a team from the Pacific is going to be gifted an opportunity to get all the way to the conference final, and that sucks. I mean, they're still going to have to beat, Colorado or Dallas or Minnesota, whichever one of those 3 big heavyweights is still standing there, assuming one of those 3. I mean, any of them could get upset. I just don't like that. I don't like the way that.
Does Edmonton seem like it could do that, though?
Yeah.
Right?
Like, to me, Edmonton, the goaltending has been so volatile. They could get to the conference final, and the goalie could get hot, or their power play could get hot, or whatever, and they could make it to the Cup final again. That's why you wouldn't want to, I don't want to rule them out. But they're not having, they should be playing someone a lot harder than a joke from their division. Well, if they're a wild card team, they may have to play Colorado.
They're less offensive to me than Vegas or Anaheim, though. Because doesn't Anaheim have like a slew of shootout wins? And Vegas has 16 overtime losses. But that's more disgusting. Yeah, Edmonton at least has presentable.
Anaheim's 8-0 in shootouts.
8-0 in shootouts is Anaheim. Vegas 16 overtime losses. 16.
They've got nine more overtime wins. They only have 24 regulation wins, Anaheim.
Yeah, Anaheim and Vegas are pretty cheap here. Edmonton is less cheap. And just, gut feeling is they would be the scariest not scary, but of the 3.
Yeah.
81, I've got it up, is 1 versus 16. The Sabres got Vancouver in the first round that year. It's a good Sabres team. They were 4th in the league in points. They got Vancouver, swept Vancouver, and then lost to Minnesota in the second round. Steve Payne, Beaupre. That one hurt.
Yeah.
I was 10.
Yeah.
That one hurt. I think Craig Ramsey might have scored an overtime goal at the Met for their only win in that series. Down 3-0.
Don't remember this at all.
No?
No.
You have a block when it comes to 81?
Yeah. I mean, it's on the fringe of me going dark for a while. It's a little early, though.
A little early.
I was still in high school. Yeah, I just don't, yeah.
Meloche and Beaupre. Meloche played most of that series.
Jules Meloche, 27.
Number 27.
Yep.
My favorite ever.
No, he was 27 years old for his whole career.
He's still 27?
Yep.
My favorite ever green sports uniform. Well, 1 versus 16 is kind of fun. It will never happen.
No.
They could go back to like a conference, more of a conference
1 through 8
format
on each side.
It'd almost be the same as what they do.
Yeah.
They just break it down by division a little bit, more, and sometimes it's not equitable. 803-0550 for your thoughts. Sounds like Zach Metza is going right back in. He played for Rochester Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, apparently, and now Tuesday night he comes back up to the show. We'll talk about that. Paul Hamilton will join us. Luukkonen and Tuck on the pregame show tonight. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Sabres game night with pregame coming up in a half hour at 6. Buffalo plays host to the Islanders. Puck drop at 7. Some notes for tonight. After just 3 games in Rochester, it looks like Zach Metz is going to be back in the lineup. And then in net tonight, all signs pointing to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen getting the start, which would be his 2nd game in a row. Paul Hamilton has more on tonight's matchup up at our website, WGR550.com. 9 other games across the league tonight. Some notable matchups to keep an eye on. Also at 7, the Bruins host the Stars. Detroit is at Pittsburgh. The Lightning have Montreal in town. Ottawa is down in Florida versus the Panthers. And the Flyers are at Washington. While at 7:30, Columbus plays host to Carolina. For the Bills, head coach Joe Brady spoke with the media today at the NFL owners' meetings in Phoenix, Arizona. You can listen back to the audio on the Odyssey app or our website, WGR550.com. And for more today, our own Sal Capaccio also has a piece up at our website. You can go check that out as well. In baseball, just after 7:30, the Bisons are in Omaha versus the Storm Chasers. That game is going to be over on the Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Jays host the Rockies just after 7 o'clock. The Mets are in St. Louis at 7:45. And then out west, the Yankees take on the Mariners at 9:40. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
I think even just, in my short time here, seeing the difference from the energy that we had in the arena last year to this year, it's almost indescribable. Our fans are so passionate. They care so much. And the amount of energy that they've been bringing into the rink this season and over the last, whatever it is now, like you said, 15 games, it makes our building a really hard place to play for other teams. And we really feed off that energy. So we really can't thank them enough for how passionate they are.
Live on WGR this morning, Sabres forward Beck Malenstein. He is a fan favorite, I think.
I think that's right.
He's not coming out.
No.
I think about the journey to this year, and I do not kid myself about my level of give up when it came to the Sabres going back about a year. What were we doing a year ago? Oh, they're keeping Jason Zucker. Okay. Why not go younger? Right? What about Kulik? What about Roseanne? Do I have room for these guys? Do I need Jason Zucker? Samuelson, there was really a bad taste in our mouths about Samuelson, but he was not going anywhere.
Right.
That wasn't a decision that they had to make. Like, he was under contract, but another one where the Sabres paid up guys who have, guys who want to be here, right? So we'll just spend extra. And now we got a guy who's huge and doesn't want to, compete. That's not really fair, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm referring to.
Physically, defend teammates when it's called for. It was like, he felt unplugged to me. And there was, I don't think the team ever thought about doing anything, but there was a lot of conversation within the fan base. That's why when Adams was so vehement about sort of defending him, I guess I want to appreciate in the context it was now, but at the time it's like everybody is mad at this guy. You don't understand what's going on. We were wrong. I mean, he absolutely turned it around, but I mean he was just like a body last year. I mean, the thing with Tage was real. That was really bad, but apparently he took it to heart because he's a different player. His mentality is different. It's not just that he scored some goals, right? Had a hot, is on a heater shooting percentage wise. That may be true. He hasn't scored in quite a while now, I feel like. But just the way he plays, his demeanor, his willingness to engage physically was never at the level that it was. It was never at the level before now that I did not see it coming. Usually guys don't decide that they're going to be physical forces 5 years into their NHL careers. You either sort of have that chip in you when you get here or you don't. There's something to be said for getting more comfortable, getting older, and understanding what exactly you're capable of physically against the men you're playing against. But I just never saw the signs that he was going to be what he is, which has been an absolute core piece to one of the best defense scorers in the league.
1 goal since the Olympics.
That's a while.
At Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
On March 5th. But that's, I guess fine. Can't really complain about a Matthias Samuelsson goal-scoring drought, can you?
Yeah, I'm not inclined to.
If that even qualifies as one.
It felt like some of the, some of those goals were just like, the one against the Rangers from the bad, like, really? And that was a big goal.
Yes. Well, the point originally was about Malenstein because he, for me, was just like a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Timmins would have been this, too, in the offseason, picking him up. Just, I don't know, like, I was not rational about it. Just give me something that I've heard of, or give me a player that something sexy, right? So we can imagine this thing getting off the mat. But Zucker's really an interesting one because he's important. And for all the grief Adams got for the wanna be here stuff, well, I think this was putting his money down on that point.
Yep.
And they've been, although Adams is not here to see it. As a member of the organization, but there's a guy that has rewarded them, paid them back, if you will. Byram is interesting, and I still don't know what I've got, actually, in Byram. I mean, we do always put him in that top group with the other elite players. I don't know that he really is one, but, they didn't trade him. They might have wanted to. That was my theory, that they wanted to, how they talked about him, but they didn't do it. Maybe simply because it was, again, their inability to make deals with Adams at the helm.
Yeah, could have been.
Ends up
but I
coming
think
back.
I think that really has helped. I've said all year here since they got going, their superpower is those 4 guys. And Byram absolutely, to me, is as big a part of that as Owen Power is. His main partner this year. I mean, Dahlin is clearly at the top of the pecking order, and the production tells you that, the ice time, and just watching all 4 guys play, Dahlin is clearly the most talented and valuable. But I think Byram, and the signs were there even last year, like when he would play with Dahlin, they would have pockets within games, even though they didn't get great results, where they were really dancing on opponents in their own zone, in the offensive zone, attacking. And he's a very strong skater, Byram. He's not perfect. I don't think he's like a number 1. He's not even on a power play here anymore with this team. So I think they've got him slotted in where I think you get his best trait, which is his skating and puck handling. And that, to me, is a vital piece of what they do. I mean, the fact that they've got 2 pair that can play that way give them an opportunity to do that a lot to opponents. So even though he and Power aren't having incredible offensive seasons, they might 34 points in 27. I'm not looking at the did I get close?
Byram is 37, Power is 26.
Okay.
Points.
It's not indicative to me of like what is going on inside games where they just are controlling play. I mean, it'd be nice to get more points out of the 2 of them, but you're in their zone that nobody's scoring on you. There's always going to be the mistakes that happen, and Power not coming back hard enough, or being attentive to the guy at the goal mouth or whatever when he's defending. But those 4 dudes, I mean, blessing in disguise that Byram didn't get moved. Because I don't think, like, if anybody watches this team play and thinks, like, I wish Power, great, he's offensively gifted and he's a good skater and puck mover and all this. I just wish he were a big, tough, mean guy. They would not be the same team. You're seeing that when Stanley and Shen were in the lineup. Like, you're just not going to be those guys can't play the way the other 4 can. And I still believe that the way the other 4 play is the most important piece, the most important ingredient that this team has.
Hard to argue.
Because a lot of teams like Makar and Taves are incredible. Like a better pair than anything the Sabres have got. But they don't have, and they're great and they're deep. Maybe Colorado's a bad example. Not a lot of teams have got 4 guys that can play that way offensively and be trusted. And so it just gives the Sabres another layer there. It's one of the reasons I wasn't in love with the Parayko trade. I didn't like the price. Now, would I rather have Parayko than Logan Stanley? Sure. You'd be, I think, absolutely insane to not agree to that. But where am I putting him? Am I displacing one of the top four because Parayko is a Canadian Olympian? And I was worried it was going to mess with what their secret sauce was a little too much. And the price was pretty gnarly. I was giving up Mertka and a number one. I think that was it, wasn't it? So 2 number ones, basically, was a pretty steep price to pay for potentially upsetting the one part of the team I didn't want you to upset. So
it is interesting that they held on to those 2 assets through the deadline.
Yeah.
Once it's sort of like out in the open that they were planning to move them. And then, other teams, other deals are going down and around, and the Sabres ultimately, it's different, the player versus the pick, because the player now has it in the public space that the Sabres had agreed to trade him, but they didn't feel it necessary to trade him anyway,
Mm-hmm.
And the pick is also, like, they ended up getting through that with their number one in hand. Is there some dumb score that the Sabres have to settle tonight, or the Islanders, so I can brace myself for that, like in the Leaf game last night?
I don't believe there's
Good.
anything. No, I don't believe there's anything.
I nominate that as the absolute stupidest hockey custom, where there's a thing that happens in a game, and the game goes by, and everybody sort of gets it, that the next time, Toronto and Anaheim, even, the next time those 2 teams play, there has to be a score settled. If it's even can be called that. So you watched last night.
I did, yeah. At least the start. I know there were a couple of more different. Pizzetta, he's on the Leafs now. Jake McCabe, each took a turn at Gudas as the game went on. But the opening draw was Max Domi and Gudas. And, yeah, just like, the Sabres after the Tage thing last year, that next game, Dennis Gilbert's called up and he's going to fight somebody. It's not even the team that was the offender, just like, no, we're tough, look. Like, it's just so lame. It was lame then, nothing against Gilbert. He's just doing the job he was asked to do, but it just was lame. And, of course, last night was lame. The only thing about it that really stood out to me is, and I don't know that I've ever seen this before, and then Gudas was nursing an injury, and I don't know what the injury was exactly. There was a lot of attention paid to whether he was even going to play the game or not because of this injury. He's just back from a suspension, but he got hurt. And again, I don't know if it's a hand or a shoulder or upper lower, I don't know. But he said before the game, no, I'm playing. I want to answer for my mistakes. So, something to that effect. Like, I know recognition that I got suspended, and I respect that I got suspended. I ended this guy's season with a knee-to-knee hit. I was impressed by that, first of all. And I don't know that I'm impressed by this. I just don't know that I've ever seen it. He did not try to punch Domi at Ty Domi, which one is it? The kid, Max Domi, at all. Domi hit him a few times, and Gudas just basically hung on. Like, he engaged in the fight, like, in the stance, grabbed on, Domi started firing, and Gudas just held on, and they tumbled to the ice, and he got up and went to the penalty box. And I'm like, is he A, hurt in a way that prevents him from punching someone? That could be, and I don't know it. B, does he just think it'll be better for all his young teammates if he just lets Max Domi, for lack of a better way to put it, kick his ass? Like, if he punches Max Domi out, then the rest of the Leafs are in line all night trying to get retribution, right? If he lets Domi do his thing, maybe the fire's out. Maybe, maybe Leo Carlson doesn't have to be looking over his shoulder all night. I gained a respect for Gudas that I never thought I'd have. First of all, with the comments leading up to the game, recognizing...
He owned it.
He called it a mistake. And hockey people seem loath to ever admit that what they did was dirty or deserved a suspension or was even a mistake. And he said it, and that I liked that. And then last night, I'm not sure if I love that or not, because his teammates might have felt like dude, what are you doing?
It sounds like he didn't deserve a major.
Yeah, he really just hung on and let Domi punch him a couple times. Really, it was very unlike anything I'd ever seen from a quote-unquote villain in the league.
Anaheim did lose the game in overtime.
Overtime, right.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Sabres pregame at 6 with Paul Hamilton. This is WGR. Bottle bundle deals for each. Before we dive back in on the Sabres, pregame coming up, we started with the story that at the owners' meetings, Mike Vrabel approached Joe Brady and his table. Vrabel was done with his media session. They all have their own tables. It's like breakfast. And Brady was not. And Vrabel was walking by the Bills table, and he saw Brady's plastic or cardboard nameplate there, so you know who everybody is. And he picked it up and he crumpled it and put it back on the table, and that they both laughed. And you and I were like-minded about it. I don't think I'd find it funny if I were Brady, but I don't know. We don't know how well they know each other. Two things that Sal told us today that sort of ruined the mood. No offense to Sal. Credit to Sal. Because he said earlier in the day in a text to me that he thought it was two dudes having fun or something. Like it was something like that. That there was nothing to see here.
Two guys being dudes. That's the way people say
sure.
things now. Yep.
One is that the card itself there was an issue with it in the first place, that it was like Sal said they were having a tough time keeping it on the table, and there was a vent, and it was maybe, a little bit bent or something already.
It's possible, thinking about this way more deeply than anyone ever should, but that's why I'm here. We get paid. You out there are just in the audience. So don't think about these things that deeply. Maybe Vrabel from a table nearby saw this thing. Sal said they tried to put it back up numerous times and it kept falling down. Maybe he saw them having a hard time with it, and that was the joke. Like, this thing is terrible. Then it wasn't so much intimidate Joe Brady as it was frustration with the thing not staying where it was supposed to stay.
It might have contributed to the situation.
Could have.
The card itself was faulty.
Yes.
The other is that Sal said they were socializing together last night.
Yeah, the night before, right. Vrabel and Brady and Bean.
Yeah.
He said he saw. Yeah.
So that takes some of the steam out of that one.
Yeah.
I still think just to go up to the table, the media's all sitting there, you're big, tough Mike Vrabel, crumpled up the card, and did he throw it down or just set it down? I guess I don't know that part.
Right.
But it seems obnoxious to me. Just keep walking.
I think Joe Brady had no choice but to laugh. I wonder if he had any other – if this is one of these things that you walk away from, if you have this happens, whether it's a confrontation or whether it's, a line you wish you'd gotten off, in a conversation. That would have been funny if I'd thought of that. Like, I wonder if it's one of these things afterward you're like, was laughing the right that I should have said something. I should have had a line ready, or is it just completely something you just ignore for the rest of your life? It probably is. I tend to make too much of most things and think more about things that almost warrant no thought.
Let's see Lindy walk over to Patrick Waugh at some point. Just grab something,
right.
And crumple it up and give it back to him. Why not? Seems okay. Sabres pregame, Sabres Islanders coming up. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
it ain't since so long. All the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night. Said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. Oh, you seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over. It's about time.